The first thing I felt was panic. Not the slow-building kind that creeps up on you gradually when you realize you've forgotten something important at home. This was violent panic, raw and primal, the kind that jolts you awake from a nightmare so vivid that you can't immediately tell the difference between sleep and reality. My eyes flew open in the darkness of an unfamiliar room, and for a moment, I couldn't remember how to breathe. I sat up so fast my head spun. The sheets fell away from my body, and I became acutely aware of every sensation hitting me at once. The softness of expensive cotton against my skin. The weight of my own limbs feeling strange and unfamiliar beneath me, lighter than they should be. The pounding of my heart against my ribs like an animal trying to escape from a cage. I was breathing like I'd just run miles without stopping, gasping and desperate, my hands shaking as I pressed my palms against my face. Where was I? That question screamed through my mind, demanding answers. I was not in my house. I was not in my bedroom with the familiar cream-colored walls and the silence of a marriage that had died years ago. I was not in that hospital bed with the machines beeping out a countdown rhythm. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to slow my heartbeat, trying to ground myself in something solid and real. My fingers traced my collarbone and suddenly I froze. Something was wrong. My skin felt different. Smoother. Younger. Impossibly younger. The room gradually came into focus as my eyes adjusted to the darkness. A floor-to-ceiling window revealed glittering city lights far below. Hotel room. Expensive furniture, minimalist design, everything perfectly placed but devoid of personality. An alarm clock on the nightstand, 3:47 a.m. I stumbled out of bed, legs unsteady, and made my way to the bathroom. I needed to splash cold water on my face. The light flickered on, harsh and bright. I had to squint. When I looked at the mirror, I saw a stranger wearing my face. My face, but not my face. Younger. Much younger. My skin was smooth and unlined, without the fine wrinkles around my eyes that I'd collected through 12 years of stress and exhaustion. My hands were smooth. No age spots. No signs of time's passage. I looked like someone in their early 30s instead of someone who had just died. My dark hair fell past my shoulders in waves, thick and healthy. My body was lean and strong, the body I'd had before Richard. I didn't recognize this person staring back at me. "This isn't possible," I whispered to my reflection. My voice sounded different. Younger, less weighted down by years of sadness. I closed my eyes and tried to access the memories that kept slipping away like water through my fingers. Richard. Hospital. Machines beeping. A doctor saying words like internal bleeding, and nothing more we can do, and I'm so sorry. Words that meant death. That last moment of consciousness as the world faded to black, as the machines stopped beeping, as everything went quiet and final. That moment felt more real than anything I'd ever experienced. I staggered backward until my body hit the wall and I slid down to sit on the tile floor. The cold shocked my system. I pulled my knees up to my chest, wrapping my arms around them, trying to make myself small. This wasn't possible. People didn't get reborn. People didn't get second chances. People lived their lives and made their choices, and when they were done, they were done. Finished. Over. But I was here. In a hotel room with expensive furniture. In a younger body. With all my memories intact. I remembered being 23 years old, meeting Richard at a coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon in spring. The weather had been beautiful. I'd thought he was charming. Attractive. Stable. Everything I'd been looking for after romantic disasters had left me raw and cautious. I was so tired of broken hearts. When Richard asked me out, I said yes. I said yes to everything. Yes to moving in together after a year. Yes to marriage after 3 years. Yes to staying even when the charm wore off and I realized his stability was actually indifference, his reliability was apathy. 12 years of that. Making excuses, telling myself things would get better if I just tried harder. 12 years of dying slowly while he played video games or went out with friends, leaving me alone, feeling more like a roommate than a wife. I cooked dinner for him every night. Good dinners that took hours. He'd eat while checking his phone. "It's good," he'd say absently. Never amazing. Just good. Adequate. I wanted to go to movies. He'd rather stay home. I wanted a vacation. He couldn't get time off. I wanted children. He wasn't sure about that responsibility. Everything revolved around his comfort. Everything I wanted got pushed aside. And then the pain started. At first I thought it was stress. Then something I'd eaten. But it wouldn't go away. Then I was in the hospital and doctors were explaining that something was seriously wrong. Something that couldn't be fixed. Something that would kill me. They used words like terminal and aggressive and stage 4. Richard visited once. Just once. He sat in the uncomfortable chair for exactly 20 minutes. I remember because he kept checking his watch, before making an excuse about work and leaving. I never saw him again. He didn't come back. He didn't call. He didn't text. I lay in that hospital bed realizing I was dying alone. Not alone in the sense of being without people. There were nurses and doctors. But alone in the way that matters. Alone because the person I'd chosen to spend my life with couldn't be bothered to stay while I died. I was remembering all of it. The pain, the regret, the bone-deep realization that I had gotten it all wrong. I had chosen poorly. I had settled for someone who didn't deserve me, and I'd given him the best years of my life. I was dying having never really lived. Never really been seen. Never really been loved. And then I died. The world went black. And then I woke up here. I forced myself to stand up, legs shaky. I looked at my body in the mirror, studying this younger version like it was a stranger. Everything was exactly as I remembered being at 32. Before the years with Richard wore me down. Before stress aged me. This face. This young face. This face still had possibility written all over it. This face belonged to someone who hadn't met Richard yet. Someone who hadn't wasted 12 years. Someone who still had time to get it right. My eyes filled with tears. Not tears of joy but tears of disbelief and grief and something close to hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope meant this might be real. That I could take what I learned and do things differently. I couldn't breathe at the thought. The what-ifs were too enormous. If I had the chance to live again, if I could make different choices, if I could avoid Richard completely, then what? I splashed cold water on my face and forced myself to focus. I needed to understand where I was. I found a purse on the dresser. Inside was my driver's license. Me but younger. Same date of birth. Credit cards. Cash. More cash than I'd ever seen. An apartment key. A phone with a contact labeled M. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to think logically. Either this was a dream, or I'd lost my mind, or the impossible had become real. But standing in that hotel room holding my ID, feeling my young body, remembering every moment with clarity, I believed the third option was the answer. I'd been given a second chance. Something most people only dream about. A do-over. A reset button. The thought terrified me. It also made me angry. Desperate. Determined in a way I'd never felt before. Because if I only got one shot at this, one chance to live knowing what I knew now, I was going to make completely different choices. Starting immediately. I would reject Richard the moment I saw him. I would not settle for someone who couldn't see me. I would not waste my breath being someone I wasn't. The second chance was precious. I looked at my young face one more time. Same eyes. Same features. But someone different was looking back. Someone who had died and come back. Someone ready to fight for what she deserved. Tomorrow would be different. But for now, I sat in that hotel room with my renewed body and ancient memories, and I let myself believe something impossible. I let myself believe second chances existed. Morning came with harsh sunlight filtering through hotel curtains. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the entire night staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through possibilities. By the time sunlight painted the room gold, I'd made an exhaustive list. First, find an apartment. Second, find a job. Third, stay far away from Richard. The third was most important. I showered carefully, avoiding looking at my reflection too long. Every glimpse of my young face reminded me this was real. The apartment key led me to a studio in a decent neighborhood. It was mine apparently. Fully furnished. Everything paid for at least a few months. Someone had set this up. Someone knew I was coming. The questions were endless, but I decided some mysteries could wait. I needed to build a life. The job came next. I'd worked in marketing before, though I'd never loved it. But it paid well. Within a week, I'd landed a position at a mid-sized marketing firm downtown. This time, I promised myself I'd do it differently. I'd build something real for myself instead of waiting for someone else to make me feel complete. 3 weeks after my rebirth, I was getting coffee in the office break room when he walked in. I didn't recognize him at first. Just a man in a nice suit, dark hair, kind eyes. He smiled at me professionally. Then something shifted in my chest. A recognition that had nothing to do with memory. Something felt like fate. "I'm Marcus," he said, extending his hand. His voice was warm and measured. "I just started in the London account team." "You're Sarah," I said, shaking his hand. His grip was warm and firm. But there was something in his eyes. Something that suggested he felt it too. "Sarah," he repeated, tasting the name. "That's beautiful. It suits you." I felt my cheeks warm. "Thank you." We didn't talk much that day. Just a brief introduction. But I found myself noticing him throughout the afternoon. The way he focused intently on his computer. The way he took his coffee black. The way he smiled at people in the hallway like he genuinely cared. Over the next few weeks we spent more time together. Coffee breaks. Lunch. Conversations that started with work but drifted into personal territory. He asked about me. Really asked. He wanted to know what I thought. What I loved. What scared me. What dreams I'd pushed aside. I was terrified of falling for him. Terrified I was repeating my first life. But I was also terrified of not taking this chance. One afternoon Marcus invited me for coffee after work. We walked to a small cafe blocks from the office. Sat at a table by the window. Talked for hours. About our childhoods. Our dreams. The things that made us feel alive. "Can I ask you something?" he said as the sky turned from blue to purple to dark. "Have we met before? There's something about you that feels familiar. Like I'm supposed to know you." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he said, frowning. "It's like I'm supposed to know you, but I can't figure out where. It's not déjà vu exactly. Something deeper." I wanted to tell him. I wanted to explain that across the boundaries of death and rebirth, we had known each other. But I didn't have an explanation that made sense. So I said, "Maybe it's just a good connection. Maybe we're supposed to meet each other now." He smiled. "Yeah. Maybe it is." That night I allowed myself to feel something I'd sworn I wouldn't. Hope. Not desperate hope like I'd felt with Richard. This was different. Hope for myself. Hope that I could build a real connection with someone who actually saw me. The weeks passed. We fell into a rhythm. Lunches became dinners. Dinners became weekends. He asked me to dinner at a real restaurant, somewhere upscale with white tablecloths and waiters who knew how to do their jobs. "I like you, Sarah," he said over dessert. "I know it's fast, but I wanted you to know that. This feels important. You feel important." My first instinct was to protect myself. To keep a part of myself locked away where it couldn't be hurt. But I'd already died once playing it safe. I'd already wasted years being careful. "I like you too," I said. "And that scares me." "Why?" He reached across the table and took my hand. "Because the last time I let someone matter this much, I lost myself. I became so focused on making him happy that I forgot about what I needed." "I'm not him," Marcus said simply. "And you're not the person you were before. But I don't know if I can be in a relationship without doing that." "Then we'll figure it out together," he said. "I promise you, Sarah. You don't have to lose yourself to be with me. I want all of you. Your ambition and your dreams and your anger and your joy. I want the whole person." I wanted to believe him. I was learning to believe him. He moved to my apartment a month later. We'd been talking about it. It made sense. Both our places were small. My studio was bigger. We could build something there together. Living with him showed me what a real partnership looked like. We split household duties equally without even discussing it. We made decisions together. He supported my career goals as much as I supported his. There was no scorekeeping. No resentment. One evening he came home with an envelope. He handed it to me without explanation, watching my face carefully. Inside was a ring. Not an engagement ring but a promise ring. Something to symbolize what we had and where it was going. "I'm not proposing yet," he said. "Because I want you to know this isn't about locking you down. This is just me saying I'm committed to this. To us. To building a life with you. I see a future with you, Sarah. I see a real, genuine, beautiful future with you by my side." I cried happy tears for the first time in my rebirth. 6 months after meeting Marcus, I felt like I was finally becoming the woman I was supposed to be. My career was flourishing. The promotion I'd gotten had led to more opportunities, more recognition. My relationship with Marcus was deepening in ways that felt real and sustainable, built on genuine connection rather than fear or dependency. I was happy in a way that felt genuine and earned. But more than that, I was present. I was choosing myself. I was building a life that was actually mine. Marcus and I had fallen into a beautiful rhythm. We'd cook dinner together, him actually helping instead of just sitting while I did everything. We'd go to museums and movies and concerts. We'd talk about our days, really talk, not just give one-word answers while checking phones. One evening, as we lay in bed listening to the rain outside, Marcus turned to me. "Do you ever think about the future?" "All the time," I said. Which is strange because I lived one life and it wasn't what I wanted. Now I get to imagine a different one. "What do you imagine?" "I imagine us. A house maybe. Not too big, just comfortable. A place that feels like home. I imagine traveling. Not for work but for us. Going places we've always wanted to see. I imagine a life where I'm not always waiting for the other person to be ready. I imagine being brave enough to ask for what I want." He pulled me closer. "You are brave enough. You're braver than you know." "How do you know that?" "Because you're here. Because you rebuilt your life. Because you're choosing yourself every single day even though it would be easier to fall back into old patterns." I thought about that for a long time. He was right. Every day I woke up and made the choice to keep going, to keep building, to keep choosing myself over comfort or safety. My father called one afternoon. We'd been distant for years, consumed with my marriage to Richard. But now I had time for him. We'd started having dinner once a week. "Your mother says you're happy," he said. "I am," I said. "Really happy. For the first time in my life, I think I'm actually happy." "That's good, Sarah. That's really good. You deserve to be happy." I thought about how close I'd come to never having those conversations with him. In my first life, he died when I was 35, and I'd been too wrapped up in my failed marriage to spend time with him. But this time I had him. I had these moments. "Dad, I love you," I said. "I don't tell you that enough, but I do." There was a pause. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." After we hung up, I sat there holding the phone, feeling the weight of my second chance. This was why I'd been reborn. Not just to find Marcus. Not just to escape Richard. But to be present. To show up. To tell the people I loved that they mattered. Work was good too. My boss had noticed my performance. My campaigns were bringing in clients. I was building something real, something that felt meaningful. I was leading a team of talented people. I was making decisions that mattered. One day Marcus surprised me at lunch. He brought me flowers and a card that said, "Just because I'm proud of you." "What's this for?" I asked, smiling. "For being amazing," he said. "For being brilliant and talented and kind. For building something real. For choosing yourself." I kissed him right there in the office break room, not caring who saw. I was done living small. I was done apologizing for taking up space. One evening we were talking about our families. Marcus told me about his parents, how close they were, how they taught him what a real partnership looked like. "My parents aren't like that," I said. "They're okay, but there's a distance. My dad was always working. My mom was always frustrated. They loved each other, I think, but they didn't know how to show it. They didn't know how to actually be together." "That's why this matters," Marcus said. "That's why we matter. We're building something different. We're showing each other every day that we choose this. We choose us." That night I made a promise to myself. If I ever had children, I would show them what a real partnership looked like. I would show them that love wasn't about diminishing yourself. It was about choosing someone who celebrated who you were. I saw Richard at the grocery store 6 months into my new life. He was in the produce section, casually reaching for tomatoes, and I froze. 6 months I'd managed to avoid him completely. 6 months of living my new life without crossing paths with the man who had dominated my first one. He looked the same as I remembered. Handsome enough in a conventional way. Charming smile. But now I could see what I'd been blind to before. I could see the selfishness in his eyes. The way he looked right through the cashier like she was invisible. I tried to leave without him noticing. But of course he saw me. Of course he called out. "Sarah? Sarah? Is that really you?" I froze. There was no escaping this now. I had to turn and face him. "Richard," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Wow, you look different. Did you do something different with your hair? Your makeup? Something is different." I had no patience for small talk. "How have you been?" Good. Work's been crazy. But I was actually meaning to reach out. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. We had something special, you know? And I think I made a mistake letting you go." My first instinct was to ask when he'd let me go. considering he'd visited me in the hospital once and then disappeared. But I bit my tongue. "I'm with someone now," I said quietly. His face changed. The charming smile faltered. "Oh, anyone I know?" "No. It's not something I expect you to know about." "Well, maybe that's something we could talk about?" He smiled that practice smile. "I miss you, Sarah. We had good times." "No, we didn't," I wanted to say. "We had comfortable times. We had safe times. But good would have meant he saw me. Good would have meant he valued me. Good would have meant we actually built something together instead of me building my entire life around him. But instead of engaging, I just said, I should go. It was nice to see you, Richard." I didn't wait for his response. I paid for my groceries and left, walking out with my head high, trying to convince myself that this encounter didn't matter. That night I told Marcus what happened. I expected him to be upset or jealous, to feel threatened. But he just listened. When I finished, he pulled me close. "Do you want to be with him?" he asked quietly. "No. God, no. Not even a little bit." "Then it doesn't matter. He can try all he wants, but if you don't want him, that's all that matters. Your choice is real and valid." "I know. But nothing. You've made your choice. You chose yourself. You chose us. That's what matters." But Richard didn't give up. Over the next few weeks he showed up. He'd text me seemingly random thoughts, testing to see if I'd respond. He'd call just to hear my voice. He'd show up at places he knew I'd be. It wasn't threatening exactly, but it was persistent. It was uncomfortable. It was like he couldn't accept that I didn't want him anymore. I started to dread checking my phone. Started to feel anxious when I saw familiar places where he might appear. But Marcus was there through all of it. He never told me what to do. He just reminded me that my choice was valid. "He's going to push," Marcus said one night. "People like that always push. They're not used to hearing no. But you don't owe him anything, Sarah. Not your time, not your consideration, not your guilt." Eventually Richard gave up. The texts became less frequent. The calls stopped. He finally accepted that we were over. That I'd moved on. That he'd been replaced in my life by someone better. The day I realized I wasn't anxious anymore, that I no longer feared running into him, I felt like I'd finally escaped. Not just from Richard, but from the part of me that had believed I wasn't worthy of better. 9 months into my new life, I felt like everything was finally in place. My career was flourishing. My relationship with Marcus was deepening. I was happy. Genuinely happy in a way that felt earned and real. Then came the day everything shifted. I was at work when I got a call from my mother. He was crying. My father had collapsed. He was in the hospital. I needed to come home as soon as possible. I'd been so focused on my own rebirth that I'd barely thought about my parents. In my first life, my father had died of a heart attack when I was 35. I'd been too wrapped up in my marriage to Richard to spend as much time with him as I should have. It was one of my deepest regrets. But this wasn't supposed to happen yet. I was only 32 now. It was too early. Unless being reborn had changed everything. Unless the timeline I'd known was no longer the same. I rushed to the hospital, Marcus by my side without me even asking. He'd simply closed his laptop, told his work he was leaving, and gotten in the car. No questions. No hesitation. Just presence. I sat in the waiting room with my mother, holding her hand while she alternated between crying and praying and staring blankly at the wall. I realized something profound in that moment. In my first life, I'd missed so much because I was waiting for Richard to care. I'd missed moments with my parents because I was too busy trying to make my marriage work. This time, I wasn't going to make that mistake. I took time off work. My boss didn't even hesitate. I spent the next 2 weeks at my parents' house. I helped my mother navigate the hospital visits and the insurance paperwork. I sat with my father when he was conscious enough to have conversations. I was present. Really present, not checking my phone or thinking about work. And miraculously, my father recovered. The doctor said it was touch and go, but he pulled through. He recovered enough to come home. To have the chance at more time with his family. When I returned to Marcus, he was waiting with dinner cooked. He'd made my favorite, a dish he'd learned to cook because it made me happy. He pulled me into his arms and held me like I was something precious. "You were amazing these past 2 weeks," he said. "The way you were there for your parents. The way you showed up completely. It was beautiful to see." I looked up at him, feeling the weight of my own growth. "I think I've been learning something about myself." What's that? I don't want to be the kind of person who forgets about the people who matter. I don't want to get so caught up in a relationship that I lose sight of everything else. I don't want to repeat the mistakes of my first life. You won't, he said. Not with me. I want you to be there for your parents. I want you to have your career. I want you to have your own life that's full and complete and meaningful. I just want to be part of it. I want to be someone who enhances your life, not someone who consumes it. After my father's health scare, things shifted between Marcus and me in ways that felt fundamentally important. We decided to move in together not because I felt like I needed to, but because we both wanted to. We were ready for that level of commitment. Living with him showed me what a real partnership looked like in everyday moments. We split household duties equally. We made decisions together about big things and small things. He supported my career goals. There was no scorekeeping. No resentment. Just two people genuinely trying to build a life together. One evening, Marcus came home with an envelope. He handed it to me without explanation, watching my face carefully. Inside was a ring. I'm not proposing yet, he said. Because I want you to know this isn't about locking you down. This is just me saying I'm committed to this. To us. I see a future with you, Sarah. I see a real, genuine, beautiful future with you by my side. I cried. I actually cried happy tears. Tears that came from genuine joy. Yes, I said, slipping the ring on my finger. Yes to all of it. Yes to you. Yes to us. Yes to this future. 11 months after my rebirth, I was having lunch with Marcus when he said something that stopped me cold. Can I ask you something weird? He said, setting down his fork. Of course. Anything. Have you ever felt like you've lived before? Like you have memories that don't make sense? Memories from another life. My heart began to race. This was the moment I'd been both hoping for and dreading. Why are you asking that? Because I have, he said quietly. I have these memories of knowing you before I met you. These aren't just feelings, they're actual memories. I remember talking to you. I remember feeling like you were the most important person in the world. I remember searching for you. I set down my fork carefully. What are you saying, Marcus? I'm saying, what if we knew each other before? What if this isn't just coincidence? What if something bigger brought us together? I couldn't hide it anymore. I couldn't keep the truth locked inside. Marcus, there's something I need to tell you. I told him everything. I told him about dying. About being reborn. About my first life with Richard. About waking up in that hotel room with all my memories intact. I told him about my decision to make different choices. I told him about seeing him at the office and feeling that strange recognition. I told him everything, and I waited for him to look at me like I was crazy. Instead, he just nodded slowly. I thought so, he said. Or at least I suspected something like that. How? How is that possible? Because in my memories from my other life, you were older. You were living a different life. You were with someone else. And I remember being so angry about that. I remember feeling like you'd made the wrong choice. And I promised myself that if I ever got the chance to find you again, I would make sure you knew you deserved better. I would make sure you chose yourself this time. My eyes filled with tears. I don't understand. Are you saying you've lived before too? I think so, he said. I think we both have. I think we've been looking for each other across lifetimes. I think there's something between us that transcends a single timeline. And now we've found each other. And this time we're not going to waste it. After that conversation, everything made sense. The familiarity. The sense of recognition. The feeling that we were somehow meant to find each other. Marcus told me his memories over the following weeks. He remembered a different timeline than the one I'd lived. He remembered knowing me when I was older, already locked into my marriage with Richard. He remembered watching me make choices he didn't agree with. He remembered feeling helpless. I've been searching for you for years, he admitted one night. When I got the job at the marketing firm where you just started, I knew immediately it was you. I recognized something in you that I'd only experienced in my other memories. But I was terrified. I was terrified you wouldn't remember me. I was terrified you'd already chosen your path. But you took the job anyway, I said. Because the alternative was spending my life wondering what if. And I'd already done that once. I wasn't going to do it again. I couldn't live with that regret. I pulled him close. Thank you. Thank you for taking that chance. Thank you for being there when I woke up. Thank you for seeing me. There's something else, he said quietly. Something I need to tell you. What? In my memories, I see fragments of futures. Multiple versions of what could happen depending on the choices we make. In some of them, we end up together. In others, we don't. In some of them, you're still unhappy. And in the others? I asked, though I was pretty sure I already knew the answer. In the others, we build something real. We build a life that's actually worth living. We help each other become the best versions of ourselves. We're happy, Sarah. We're genuinely happy. Which future are we in now? I asked. The one we choose to build, he said. Together. Every single day we get to choose this future. And I want to choose it with you. 1 year after my rebirth, Marcus took me to the coffee shop where we'd had our first real conversation. We sat at the same table in the same seats that had been lucky for us. Do you remember this place? He asked. Of course. It's where I started falling for you. It's where I realized maybe I could actually be happy again. He smiled, and in that smile I saw all the love and patience he'd shown me. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a box. This time it was an engagement ring. Sarah, I've known you in multiple lifetimes. I've watched you make choices that broke my heart because I couldn't protect you from them. But in this lifetime I get the chance to choose with you. I get the chance to build a future with you. I get to show you what love is supposed to be like. Will you marry me? I said yes immediately, tears streaming down my face. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with our families. And as I walked down the aisle toward Marcus, I knew I'd made the right choices. Every single one of them. On our wedding night, lying in bed in our hotel room, I told Marcus something I'd been thinking about for months. I think I understand why I was reborn, I said. Why? He asked, stroking my hair. Because I needed to learn that I was worth choosing. That I deserved better than what I'd accepted. That love wasn't supposed to be painful or diminishing. It was supposed to be expansive. It was supposed to make you better. And did you learn it? He asked gently. Yes. And I'm still learning it every day. But mostly yes. He kissed my forehead. Then it was worth it. All of it. You waking up alone in that hotel room. You rebuilding your life. You rejecting your ex. All of it was worth it because it led you here. It led you to this moment. It led you to me. 2 years after my rebirth, I was pregnant. Marcus and I were going to have a daughter. We decided to name her Hope, both because of the meaning and because of what she represented. The future, the possibilities, the belief that good things could happen even after you died and been reborn. As I sat in the doctor's office, feeling the baby kick inside me, I thought about how far I'd come. From dying alone in a hospital bed, full of regret and sadness, to this. To a life filled with purpose and love and genuine connection. To a future that was bright and real and worth living. I thought about Richard sometimes. I wondered if he'd ever figured out why I'd rejected him so firmly. I wondered if he'd ever understood that I wasn't running away from him. I was running toward myself. My father had fully recovered from his heart attack. In this new timeline, he was going to get to meet his granddaughter. He was going to be present in our lives. My mother was already planning how she'd help with the baby. My career was flourishing. I'd been promoted to director of marketing. I was building strategies and leading teams and doing work that felt meaningful. And Marcus. Every single day I was grateful for Marcus. For his patience with my fears and insecurities. For his love. For his willingness to meet me in this strange, impossible situation. One evening, as we decorated the nursery for Hope, Marcus put his arms around me from behind, his hands on my belly where our daughter was growing. Do you still think about your first life? He asked. Sometimes, I said honestly. Not with regret anymore, just with acknowledgement. It happened. It shaped me. It led me here. And here is good? He asked. Here is perfect, I said. Here is everything I should have had the first time. Here is my second chance, and I'm not wasting a single moment of it. I turned around and kissed him. A kiss that contained gratitude and love and the kind of peace that comes when you've finally found your way home. When you've finally learned your own worth. When you've finally chosen yourself. The story of my rebirth wasn't just about getting a second chance. It was about learning that I was worth that second chance. It was about understanding that real love didn't diminish you. It enhanced you. It was about building a life with intention and presence and genuine connection rather than settling for whatever came easiest. As I felt our daughter kick inside me, I made a silent promise. I promised to teach her to value herself. I promised to show her what real partnership looked like. I promised to make sure she never felt like she had to settle for less than she deserved. My past life had taught me hard lessons. My rebirth had given me the chance to put those lessons into practice. And now, as I stood in the nursery of the home Marcus and I had built together, watching him hang immobile above the crib, I understood something fundamental. We don't get second chances very often. But when we do, the only real question is, what are we going to do with them? I'd used mine to find myself. To build a life that was genuinely mine. To choose someone who actually saw me. To become the woman I should have been all along. And that made all the difference. Outside the window, the city lights were coming on as evening fell. Life was happening. And inside this nursery, my daughter was growing. The future was coming. And I was ready for it. I was ready to live.